How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another review of How I Met Your Father, episode 4 with Damon G, here for Big Gold Belt Media. And, I gotta be honest, I am trying to not like this series. For those that don't know, How I Met Your Father is a spinoff to the very popular How I Met Your Mother that if you've watched the reviews here on the YouTube channel, you know that I am a big fan of the original. So I'm trying really hard on one hand to not like this series, and on the other hand, I'm trying to give this a shot because this is a professional review. For those who don't know, I do this professionally, so I'm trying to be as objective as possible. But as episode 4 rears its ugly head, I got to admit, this is making me less endearing or less endeared to this show. Episode titled Dirty 30, where Sophie is celebrating her 30th birthday, and we pick up right where we left off on the Fixer episode, where she is going out with Drew on a first date. Now, there's a lot of underlying different codes or different thought processes going on through this whole episode. A lot of life issues kind of baked in the nuance. There's the identity crisis of turning 30. A lot of us, when we turned 30, we thought, are we adults? Are we grown up? We're no longer kids or young folk anymore. And even now, even in the dating realm, when you turn 30, 35, 40, it's a different universe. And in this show, you're really trying to understand Hilary Duff's character, Sophie, a lot better as she transitions from being a kid or, in her own minds, not a grown-up. So basically, her first date with Drew just coincides with the day before her 30th birthday party, which typically her and Valentina typically plans it, where they recreate. I think they were talking about recreating the Christina Aguilera Dirrty video. If you remember that video back in the day, you remember how interesting that video was and how it spawned a whole bunch of, watch this episode and then you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But at the day before, she goes on a date with Drew, her first date, and Drew is the assistant principal of the school that Jesse works at, and they hit it off. They are at the restaurant, they're enjoying each other's company. A lot of first dates go that way, where you are enjoying your time with this person, you are getting lost in conversation, drinking on some wine, and having yourselves a grand old time, to the point where she feels he's grown, he's an adult, he has stuff together. So she wants to impress him because he asked her out for the next day. And he even makes a mention of it as a dating trope. I know you're not supposed to ask a woman out 2 dates in a row. So there's, again, a little bit of seed sprinkling here of the nuances of dating in this new age of the swipe right culture that I talked about earlier in my show reviews. And it's rearing its head here. So that's one little part of the story. Then we have the Valentina part, where her and Charlie are still trying to maintain this weird dynamic of are they a couple, are they not, how attached are they? And as the episode unfolds, Valentina admits basically that she has the worry of growing old and being monogamous as the story goes on, and she finds herself not wanting to commit to Charlie, even though he moved across the pond for her, and even though she tried to move him into her and Sophie's apartment. She's still not gung-ho about them two living together and being like an official couple, things like that. Okay. And then we have another storyline with our boy Jesse, and Helen is his, I was going to say his stepsister, but it's really his adopted sister, where there seems to be an identity crisis between the two of them, where Jesse is trying to be this really cool brother to Helen. And it's discussed as the episode goes on that Helen and Jesse's parents, they separated, and one went with each parent, and they lost touch, they lost contact, and they lost a big chunk of each other's lives. Basically, Jesse assumes that owns a dairy farm, and she doesn't. That she likes wine, she's allergic, and things like that. So that's another episode, or a part of the episode that kind of comes to fruition. Ellen and Jesse with the sibling disconnect, struggling with being an adult. A lot of different themes are happening in this episode. Again, Valentina and Charlie, they're kind of going through the emotions of what's a label, what's not a label. Are labels kind of scary? Sophie clinging to her youth, but at the same time wanting to be an adult, changing herself for Drew because she has fallen already head over heels after one date, which is very Ted Mosby of you to do so. After one date with Drew to say, I need to change the way I am. And also then there's the whole thing of just trying to shoehorn a lot of different messages which each character and a lot of different intersecting stories. And I got to admit, a lot of it just isn't funny. It's not funny. And that's the sad part, because I have yet to find myself laughing at any of the jokes. I find myself not finding the humor funny. The writing is a little dry. Also, I forgot to mention, then there's also Sid. Remember, he's in a long distance engagement. So he coins the phrase, and this comes up a lot. The whole, remember back in How I Met Your Mother, if you watched it, the theme of dibs. So now it's trademarked. So Sid wants to trademark the man-gagement ring. So basically, because he's engaged, he already has the married ring or the wedding ring on his finger. So he wants to let that be known to the general populace. So he's got his man-gagement ring trademarked, which is made of pewter and some other stones and things of that nature. Okay, again, another intersecting storyline. And this all culminates at the 30th birthday party of Sophie, where it goes from being trying to celebrate Sophie and getting wasted and drunk and celebrating this theme of Christina Aguilera, and then wanted to be a little bit more high class. And do you have any Grey Poupon or anything like that? Little pinkies in the air, if you get what I'm saying. And as the episode goes on, it's just a whole bunch of forcing the square peg into the round hole, her trying to be something for Drew. Hilarity ensues, or lack thereof, in my opinion, where basically if she comes to the realization that they no longer have kegs, they have a mixologist. The windows don't open, the heat gets broken. So basically it's a sauna, everyone's sweating in their fancy clothes. And then half the people didn't get the memo that she changed the modus operandi of the party or the theme. So half the people are showing up dressed as Christina Aguilera from the Dirty 30 video, and then half are looking rather, upper crust, what have you. And as the episode again transpires, this really just all happens within the framework of the apartment and the party, where it's found out that Valentina is getting turned on at the fact that Charlie's getting flirted with by other women. Go figure there, because they both decided that, hey, at the party, I don't know if I want to give out labels. I don't want people to think we're together. But at the same token, she likes the thought of him talking to other girls, but he gets to go home to her in some weird protective, like ownership thing. And then as the episode also transpires, Charlie starts flirting with other women to make Valentina happy, because it makes him happy to see her interested in him. And then Jesse and Helen kind of reconcile their differences in terms of their childhood, because Helen thought that Jesse didn't care about her. Jesse confirms to Helen that he was the big brother. He loved her even when they brought her home from adopting her. And when mom and dad broke up, he went with dad because he didn't want dad to be alone. So he made that sacrifice, but he asked about his sister every single day. But obviously Helen didn't know that because she's the younger sister. And, we have a moment between the two of them of that most New Yorkers would understand, and trying to swipe a Metro card, and it doesn't work. And it goes back to a gag that was running a couple of episodes prior, where Sophie just can't swipe a Metro card properly, and he tries to teach her in the Big Brother way. So what he winds up doing is teaching her how to hop the turnstile. So if you're a native New Yorker, you know exactly what that is. It's basically not paying your fare and hopping over the turnstile to not pay for your $2 or $2.50 to take the train. And again, as the episode continues, we have Sophie coming to the realization that she has to admit she has to admit to Drew that she's not who she cracks herself up to be or who she claims to be. She has to admit, oh, well, I want this to be, impressive for you. And he's like, what are you doing? You don't got to do that. And then they bust out this weird back and forth about Christina Aguilera lyrics on the rooftop, which the roof looks conspicuously a lot like Ted and Robin's roof, even though, Ted Marshall's roof, even though the apartment is Sophie's and Valentina's, but the roof looks just like the original How I Met Your Mother roof. So are they all living in the same building and didn't realize it? Is that something that's happened? Because I don't know. It just looked really suspicious. Overall, again, this episode really wasn't that funny to me. Again, my man is trying to get this man engagement ring off the ground here. Sid's just trying, and people are just, some people are thinking he's still a virgin. Some people are thinking that he might, have a partner. Wink, wink, nod, nod. So it's a lot of forced humor again. And this was sort of the problem I had with the first episodes, is that it's forcing a lot of the current humor and it's just not landing, at least for me. At the end of the episode, we find out that that Valentina and Charlie, are going to try this whole real relationship thing. Like I said, Helen and Jesse kind of rectify their childhoods and kind of clear the air. And basically Sophie and Drew work themselves out. He admits that she doesn't have to change for him. He wants to see her. He says he wants to have like 6 dates with her. We'll see about that. Way to come on a little too strong there, pal. But again, that's where we left the episode off on. Now, if I had to give this a grade, D. It's a D. That's as good as you're going to get. It's a D. I just don't find this show to be that interesting. I'll keep watching it because obviously for Big Gold Belt Media, I'm going to watch this and I'm praying, I'm hoping the humor gets better. But man, not only does this make dating in 2022 seem depressing, the humor is just not funny. And if this is what 20-somethings are doing, or young 30-somethings are doing, as I'm a little older, I'm glad I'm my age. And I'm glad these jokes ain't hitting. Maybe it's just a weird separation gap for me. I don't know. And I'm trying not to compare it to the original series, because if I was just going off of this series on its own, I would say this isn't fun. This isn't funny, and it's not a fun show so far. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Let me know down there if I am off base, because a lot of you have disagreed with me, and some of you understand exactly where I'm coming from. So please, I welcome the discourse. I welcome the discussion here on Big Gold Belt Media. This is How I Met Your Father, episode 4. This is Damien G, and I will meet you in the comments. Have a good one, folks, and let's chat.